And that's not what's being reported. Now, the AP is saying one thing, and I think USA Today is saying something different.
Well, this is from CNN.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And on CNN, it says that he took himself to Northwestern Hospital after the fact.
Mm-hmm. Well, so there are definitely gaps in times and so forth that I just hope that they will clear up, because there's definitely some things that we need to know. And these gentlemen were masked, according to the reporting that I'm reading, and this is AP reporting that I'm referring to. So, there's just a lot of different questions that need to be answered, because, again, it's not unusual for you to have folks with covering their identity, and they may not be who we think they are. So I think it's just prudent upon everyone to just make sure that we all agree this is a hideous situation, and it should have never occurred. I just think we need to allow this investigation to unfold before we throw all of our ire out and say, hey, these guys are doing this thing. Now, not that I agree with anyone thinking that they are a dominant culture and we're just going to go around and beat our way into a superior situation. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that we just need to step back, let the Chicago PD do their thing, and let's see what the facts of this situation are.
I disagree. I mean, I don't really care what happened, but at the end of the day, there was a noose involved and some bleach. So, I don't really care how it got there. I don't care how long it took him to report it. I don't really care about all that. As soon as a noose is involved, it's a hate crime. He's a black man. There was a rope around his neck. That's all that needed to be done for me. Now, we can go allegedly with how the beatings happened. We could go he said, she said for what was said as far as slurs. Sure. But one of the solid facts that everybody is confirming is that there was a noose, which means it was a hate crime. So I don't really care about the details.
What? No, it means that somebody used a noose.
On a black man.
But you have to see what the identity of the people were. You can certainly be charged with a hate crime regardless of your race. I'm not saying that you can't. But what I'm saying is...
are you saying that the masked people, because we don't know the ethnicity of the masked people?
We don't know the identity of the masked people. So, if you look at the facts as they're being reported, it certainly gives you the indication that this may be some type of race-based situation, along with the statements that were made about Mr. Smollett's sexual orientation, all of which, again, are unacceptable and have no place in our society. But again, you still have to make sure that you have identified everyone involved with this thing to make sure that whoever it is, that they are prosecuted, they're taken off the streets of Chicago, because whoever they are, they don't belong in anyone's society. And so, again, you just have to. One of the things with law enforcement is that it takes tenacity, but it also takes patience. And sometimes, even when you use your deductive reasoning skills, sometimes you have to use induction to figure out exactly what has occurred with that crime, which is what I'm confident that the Chicago PD is doing. So you're absolutely right in terms of your outrage and your frustration, because this is a horrible situation. But we do have to make sure that we have all the facts, or as many facts as the Chicago PD can gather, and then we need to get about the task of making people responsible and taking whatever follow-up actions need to happen so this will never happen again.
But don't you already think that there's a problem that, let's say it was all made up. Let's say like the whole thing is made up. The fact that people are so quick to believe that blindly just because a MAGA hat was involved says something about what that stands for.
It absolutely does. And you're right. The conditioning of the whole MAGA campaign and some of the people who have been promoting it and the things they have been doing and the policies that they have advocated and a lot of things give you that perception that this group of folks wants to be in a superior position. There's no doubt about that. But what I'm telling you is that you still have to make sure that the facts are guiding your actions. You know what I mean? And so that's what you always have to be aware of when you're investigating these types of incidents.
Dinbad? Any?
I'm just trying. I'm trying to think of what else there could be. I mean, I understand getting it right, but I hope they, come to some kind of resolution. I guess, once Jesse talks, and I'm sure most of the talking and fact finding is going on now, so that there won't be a whole lot of anything else that kind of comes out now is going to be pretty much speculation.
Right.
Until they come out.
It just broke right now that they. Hold on, let me make sure I'm getting this right.
You are on it. You are on it. Scoop newsworthy.
It says surveillance video shows potential persons of interest. So I guess they found something, or they've released. Oh, the Chicago police released photos of persons of interest. So I guess they just found.
Now, did they actually say they found video, or are these persons of interest based on the recollections of Mr. Smollett?
Okay, this is what I'm going to read the
Bring
article.
Bring it.
Go Chief. He is on it.
That's what I do.
The Chicago police have a new development in their investigation of the apparent attack on Jesse Smollett. The police department shared on Twitter on Wednesday, today, that detectives had located a surveillance camera which shows persons of interest hours later. Persons of interest. Hours later, photos were released to the public. The incident occurred on Tuesday morning. A source previously told, this is from Entertainment, or from ET, told ET that, or claiming that Smollett was walking in Chicago when two men started yelling racial and homophobic slurs at him before repeatedly hitting him. According to the source, the men then poured a substance on him, believed to be bleach, and one of the attackers put a rope around his neck. A spokesperson for the Chicago Police Department previously told ET that Smollett still had the rope around his neck from the attack when he made contact with officers at 2:42 a.m. on Tuesday. The spokesperson says that Smollett told detectives in a follow-up interview late Tuesday afternoon that his two attackers yelled MAGA country to him during the attack. According to the police, the offenders fled the scene. So it's basically the same thing, but I guess the development is that they found some kind of surveillance video, not from when it happened, but I guess they placed two guys that matched the description in the vicinity of the area on somebody's surveillance camera. So now they're looking for those people.
And that's great. And that's the type of stuff I was talking about. And as I said in my earlier comments, they may have had that type of videotape footage and not wanted to release it at that point because they didn't want to tip off whoever they were looking for, right. Or they may not have had it at that point. So, I mean, it's just, again, it's a sick situation, and I just hope they get to the bottom of it as soon as possible. And certainly I hope that Mr. Smollett recovers as quickly as possible, because not only does he have to deal with the physical harm that he just received, but also I'm sure there's a great deal of mental healing that's going to have to happen as well. And Carla, I sort of jumped in there, but you have any more thoughts on Mr. Smollett?
Is our caller still on the line?
Carla, you still on the line?
Yes, I am. No, I didn't.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask our caller, since you do have experience in the subject that we're going to be on after the break, if you could stay with us until after the break, that would be great, because we'd love to hear your thoughts on the elderly care segment.
Can you stay with us, caller?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Sounds great.
And we're going to go to break in about a minute, and just stay with us. And when we come back, we will definitely, we are eager to hear from you.
This break.
Okay. All right.
Okay. So, after the break, like I said, we're going to be going into our elderly care segment. But before we close out this subject matter, does anybody have any final thoughts on this developing situation?
I've said my piece. I just hope that Mr. Smollett recovers quickly, and I hope they round these people up who are involved with this as quickly as possible and get them off the street, because they represent a serious threat to the rest of the Chicago community, and they do not deserve to enjoy that type of freedom.
Did you say ground these people up or round these people up?
No, round them up.
Oh, okay. I was going to say that was pretty rough, but yeah, this is just kind of crazy. This is a whole this is terrorism.
It is.
This is kind of beyond crime, but terrorism. That's the kind of thing that you do to just kind of keep people on guard. He's going to be looking over his shoulder for a good little while. Whether they find these folks or not. And this is crazy. It just seems so random, too random to be random.
Right.
I mean, they knew who he was. They knew who he was portraying. They knew what they were going after. So I don't know, but we'll see. I'll be interested to hear what the investigation comes back as.
Me too. Well, I have said all I had to say on the subject too. I'm outraged. I'm praying for you, Jesse, and I hope they catch these guys.
You're listening to Straight No Chaser. We'll be right back.
Today in school, I learned a lot. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me. In English, I learned that I'm disgusting. And in physics, I learned that I'm a loser.
Today in school, I learned that I'm ugly and useless. And in gym, I learned that I'm pathetic and a joke. In history, I learned that I'm trash.
Today in school, I learned that I have no friends. In English, I learned that I make people sick. And at lunch, I learned that I sit on my own because I smell. In chemistry, I learned that no one likes me.
In biology, I learned that I'm fat and stupid. And in math, I learned that I'm trash.
The only thing I didn't learn in school today...
The only thing I didn't learn today...
The only thing I didn't learn...
is why no one ever helps.
Kids witness bullying every day. They want to help, but they don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov. A message from the Ad Council.
The path to happiness is not the easy one, but taking drugs will not make it easier. Many people got lost and end up losing their life to drugs. If you or anyone that you know is within that path, don't be afraid to seek for help. Visit www.adk.gov.my for information related to drug abuse. So, know your path. This message is brought to you by the National Anti-Drugs Agency.
Where I wanted to quit, in the back of my mind, I told myself I have to quit. And just that day when I reached for that cigarette, I'll never forget it, with my son looking at me. And it was like a bolt of lightning hit me, where I finally realized the big picture of what year after year and cigarette after cigarette had done. And I said, that's it. I'm done. I quit. Took him a whole pack, brand new pack. Took him, threw him out the window, and I don't litter. But that's it. I'm done. I quit. No, it's going to kill me. It's going to be cancer. But I don't have to make it sooner than it needs to be. He was shocked, and he says, I really hope you mean that, Mom.